what was another final if this goes wrong? So we kind of just took the shackles off and went for it. And probably on the day we were by far the better team. Really, we missed a lot of chances in the second half, but again, those mental scars were probably kicking in a little bit near the end of the game, where we missed a few frees, we missed a few chances, and we nearly let them back into it. But thankfully, we got over the line. We got a late score, and it was the rest is history. And it was a fantastic moment, really, for Sligo GAA history at the time.
What's the story, lads? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV, episode number 5 of the podcast. And yeah, today I spoke with Mark Breheny of Sligo. Mark, of course, has played 18 years with Sligo Seniors, one of the longest intercounty players of all time in Gaelic football. He played in 5 Connacht Finals, winning the Connacht Championship back in 2007. And, you know, he's undoubtedly one of the best players to ever play for the Sligo Seniors. So it was quite a conversation with Mark, obviously touching on all things Sligo ahead of the intercounty season as well, looking at some young players coming through at the moment. And of course, the potential for, Sligo in the future. How will Sligo get more competitive with the likes of Roscommon, Galway and Mayo, and even Leitrim, who've leaped above them in the league in recent years. So, yeah, enjoy the podcast. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, so welcome back to the podcast. I've got Mark Breheny here, of course, formerly of the Sligo Footballers. Here, of course, to preview Sligo ahead of the upcoming intercounty season, and obviously to speak a bit about Mark's career, of course, with Sligo as well. So I suppose first of all, Mark, obviously it's been a crazy year with everything that's gone on, both on the pitch and off the pitch. So I suppose, what have you made of the lockdown yourself?
Yeah, it was just very difficult, Darren, obviously for everyone involved. Huge disruption, really, in the intercounty scene, obviously from a football point of view, but club football at least got back in. There was great excitement that, in my own county of Sligo with whatever that was going on, just to get even a few fans back. I know for a while there we had maybe 200 in a ground, and then it went to 0. But the last weekend we had county finals on. There was huge excitement, and in fairness, it was great. Just that, I suppose, a lot of parents could get involved, go to the game. Lots of community members go to the game. So no, it was fantastic there. But in general, the lockdown, it's been very difficult on everybody, as we know. I'm just hoping that we'll get out of it, middle of next year and move things on. But huge disruption for the GAA overall, and very, very testing times for everyone involved.
Yeah, and I suppose, what have you made of kind of the whole situation in regards to playing an All-Ireland Championship in winter, and then obviously with some of the kind of other changes that have taken place as well with water breaks and whatnot? What have you made of that yourself?
Yeah, the water breaks is an unusual one, all right. Playing a few club games myself the last couple of weeks, if you've momentum going into a water break, it breaks that momentum for the team. It could be a good thing if you're behind, obviously, in a game, and there's you could be 4 or 5 points down. All of a sudden, the water break comes at a good time, and it gives you a chance just to gather your thoughts. And you probably go back to a game like basketball where they have timeouts, and you can come and regroup and reset things. So interesting move. Again, as I said, if it's working for you, and you're behind the game, it's great. If not, you're breaking that momentum of it. Intercounty now, this time of year, it's going to be strange. I know myself, when I first started playing with Sligo, one of my first years, 2000, league games were before Christmas back then. So, and that was kind of the years previously to that as well. So, pitch was a little bit heavier, October, November, December time. And back then you had 3 games before Christmas, as I said, and you continued in with maybe 4 after Christmas, 4 or 5. I think it was 4 at the time. But it just broke up the season a little bit, differently, obviously, back then. But it's going to be strange. I think players, I'm sure, will have mixed views on it. I'm not sure myself. Would I be overly excited, kind of just playing everything condensed in this fashion? Obviously, the summer days is when you want to be playing and want to be involved. So it is going to be strange. But I think for players themselves, intercounty lads, they've got their club action. I'm sure most will be excited now to get back in. But without fans, it's going to be a very, very strange feeling, I'm sure, for them.
Yeah, I suppose it definitely will be interesting as well, kind of with no fans. Now, I suppose obviously for yourself, obviously you retired from intercounty football back in 2018, and then it was believed you played your last club game with St Mary's at the end of last year. But I was kind of seeing there that you were thinking of getting back to play some junior football. So I suppose did you go back in the end? And I suppose how did you get on?
Yeah, that was just I had a chat with a reporter, Declan Rooney, back I think around that time, around March, and he was just asking me, how was I getting on, and what was my thoughts at the moment regarding playing football. And all I really said to Declan at the time was I took a break from going back collectively with my club in January, and I spoke to the manager on that, and he was he had no issues at all with that. So I suppose the way that the report came out was that I had the way I was kind of talking to Declan was that I think this lockdown kind of gives you a different perspective on things, that I would be mad to get back playing if things, you're able to get back playing in the summertime. So I don't think I'd ever, and as most players would say, you never really retire from your club anyway. So I don't think I was ever going to retire. You always would get dragged in playing a little bit of junior, but I went back playing senior in the end and really enjoyed it. And I just wish I could play a few more games. Obviously, you missed out in the league. Now there was a few group stages. I was injured for one or two of those games, and I played probably two only games, but you're really only getting momentum going, and the body was feeling good. And it's just a shame now it's kind of over now all of a sudden. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying it again. I'm gonna review it again for next year and see how I'm feeling. But yeah, at the moment the body is good, and I'll try to keep up the strength and condition maybe over the winter and see how that goes.
Yeah, perfect. And I suppose obviously you retired from intercounty football as one of the longest serving intercounty players in Gaelic football of all time. So I suppose when you look back at your time with Sligo, is that something that kind of makes you fairly proud of yourself, the fact that you stuck at it for 18 years in total?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose it takes huge sacrifice, Aaron, and that was the one thing that year to year, without the support maybe of my long-term girlfriend at the time and now wife, that she gave me that support, and just family as well around me. And my job probably suited as well, being a teacher in a local school at Summerhill College for the majority of that of my career as well. I would have felt year to year, I just I still enjoying it, and that was the main thing. I enjoyed the training aspect of everything. I enjoyed kind of learning year to year on nutritional benefits that I've brought forward now. And since I've retired, I enjoyed just a camaraderie in the dressing room with friends that you'll have, for lifetime really. And playing under various, different managers and different styles of managers. So overall, yeah, I mean, the longevity of it was it was hard at times to keep it going and year to year. But so I won one Connacht Championship medal in 2007, and I felt I could have won more. So every year you're driving yourself on a little bit more and more, trying to better yourself personally and try to help the team as much as you can. So yeah, no, I usually, fantastic memories really of those close to enough 18 years, and I don't think I have any regrets really. So that's the main thing.
Yeah, and I suppose obviously you touched on 2007 there, which we'll get to in a moment. But obviously you were involved in 5 Connacht Finals in total. And what do you think it was that made Sligo so competitive in those days? Because obviously nowadays Mayo, Galway, and Roscommon, it's fair to say, are kind of just a bit ahead of Sligo at the moment. So back then, what do you think it was that made Sligo so competitive with the likes of Galway and Mayo back then?
Yeah, I think when I started off, it was kind of 2000. But prior to that, we knew that there was a great influx of players coming through regarding underage success. And unfortunately, actually, we didn't have any medals to show for it. But we were getting to Connacht Finals. We were getting to a replay of a Connacht Final, I know, in '96, and lost to Mayo in that replay by only a point, and should have won it on the first day, up by a point in injury time. Then I played a '98 final, and we lost narrowly to Leitrim, and we should have won that one really. They bet Galway surprisingly in the semi-final, and we bet Roscommon in the other semi-final. But Galway had originally knocked out Mayo, so there was a great opportunity for the likes of ourselves and Leitrim then to win that one. But I knew we had a basis of very, very good players. There was kind of Eamon O'Hara and Sean Davies age group then coming through. There was other lads, David Durkin and Paul Durkin was still there involved. So that really kind of brought together the whole a very, very good squad, a strong squad, 2001, 2002, where we were competing in Croke Park. We got to the Connacht Final in 2002. And, with huge success then, beating Kildare in Croke Park in 2001. You're playing Dublin then again in Croke Park. Huge exposure, but that's what the qualifiers did for Sligo. It gave us great exposure on a national level. And it was fantastic, really, to get that exposure, really, because previous years, Sligo would play one Connacht Championship game maybe per year. And luckily, if they won one, it was a seeded system back then, back in the 80s. And so you had to kind of go through maybe to play the big three teams to get to a Connacht final. So, we're very, huge memories of those early days, really. You're beating Tyrone and Croke Park and then running Armagh, narrowly then after replay in Navan. So, management at the time too, Peter Ford, TJ O'Gallen brought in a very, very good management style to them, in fairness. And they were, training was tough. And prior to that, Mickey Moran really kind of gave us a real resurgence in the county, kind of in the 96, 97 year. And he was there for certainly 96, 97. And he kind of followed on then for, 2000 then as well. So that's when Peter and TJ came in then. But yeah, great memories of that period as well, Aaron, in fairness.
And I suppose obviously getting onto 2007, then obviously just the third time that the Sligo won the Connacht Football Championship at senior level. But I suppose kind of going back to the start of that, like just before the start of the Connacht Championship, like was the feeling going into that year always that you could maybe cause an upset? Because even in 2006, 2005, like obviously, Galway and Leitrim beat Sligo in the opening game of the Connacht Championship. So, like, do you think in 2007 you nearly surprised yourself in many ways, or did you always kind of feel confident that maybe you could actually cause an upset going in there?
Yeah, I think, again, kind of going back to, the narrow miss of 2002, which we could have ended up in All-Ireland semi-final playing Dublin, and we're very, very close to it. Then in 3, we kind of fell back a little bit. We lost to Meona in a Connacht Championship game in Markovich, and we lost to Donegal in a qualifier game in Ballybuffet. And again, narrow losses. So 2004, very close to a National League semi-final, lost out by a scoring point, I'll always remember. But I played Tyrone in that semi-final. So we knew there was a nucleus of very good players, and we were trying to keep them all together really around that period. 2005, Dom Corrigan came in, and we got the last 12 of the All-Ireland with Dom that year as well. But 2006 came, and so it was Dom and the county board. It was, at that time, he parted ways. And my own brother Tommy, which was a former Sligo captain himself, took over the reins in a, just a small capacity. Really, he kind of felt he just come in for a few weeks and just to look after things until they got a more permanent man in place. But as Tommy got into it, he found his feet at that level very, very quickly. He'd managed kind of our own club team, and he was a selector with us kind of 2 years previously to that as well. So just the year before, but he found his feet, as I said. He knew all the players, in fairness, growing up from a club scene, and knew my own age group as well from managing me at club level. And he just had a good handle on all the players, and his man management style was very, very good, in fairness, and he got players on board straight away. But the key really was that there was 2 players that he identified at the time. Was Kieran Quinn, was a fantastic midfielder really back in the early noughties for us, had given a break for a couple of years and got him back on board. And Michael McNamara then was a big plus. He was a Sligo Rovers captain from the previous year, and played with the Rovers for a few years there. And once you got those 2 on board, even the whole squad kind of stood up and said, right, great, we've 2 key members back. We've a very strong squad at the moment. And in fairness, just things rolled from there. Tommy got John Kent then, and his own club mate, involved. John was a super player with Sligo over the years himself, and he was great to get involved in it. PJ Langton then was a former player, a very good club player with Eastern Harps, and so things started rolling from there, as I said, Aaron, and it was great. Just momentum started building. We knew we were heading to New York that year in 2007. That probably always gives fellas a step, or a pep in the step as well. And fellas might be thinking of taking a year out. Said, right, it's great. We've that trip to New York to look forward to. We had it in 2002, and it kind of gave us the impetus to go on for the Connacht final that year. So 7 again, New York was a fantastic trip, and when you get away on those trips, it's a real bonding time for players. You know, you don't have the same time really when you're kind of week to week, you know, training, rushing to train and rushing away from training. So I think the New York trip really galvanized the squad back then and gave us that that camaraderie that we needed probably leading into the Roscommon game in the semi-final. So that Roscommon game was, you know, we were 5 down with 20 minutes to go. Wasn't looking good at all, and I think we hit something like 8 or 9 points on the bounce then, and won it by a point only in the end. Actually, they clawed it back 1 or 2 points as well. So it was, and that led us into the Connacht final then against Galway.
And what do you think it was then that kind of got you over the line in that game versus Galway? Because always Galway, you know, they had a couple of All-Ireland winners in their team, you know, at the time, and you know they were certainly the favourites going into that game. So, like, what do you think it was? You know, what do you think was the deciding factor maybe in that game that kind of led you to get that win over Galway?
Yeah, I think probably just going back even to Tommy's mantra that year, he kind of came in on the basis and he continued from the year before. Like we did quite well in the qualifiers with him the year before. We bet Leitrim and we bet Down, and we were very narrowly defeated by Westmeath by a last second goal by Gary Dolan, I'll always remember. But I think when Tommy set a stall out then for the start of 2007 campaign, we're getting a few extra players, he wasn't going to be around. He felt, and he did say it, that this is it. I'll be here for a year, lads. We need to win it this year. You know, we have a strong squad. This is our time. This is our chance. There was a lot of mental scars as well when you think about the players in that squad. Would have all narrowly lost minor, under 21, and even senior titles. You know, we were almost over the line in a lot of games, and so he had to factor in all that as well. But I think the belief was there when, you know, we got a little bit of momentum. At the very end of the league, we ended up beating Antrim at home and beating Wicklow away. And Wicklow were a sticky team. Mick O'Dwyer was looking after him at the time, and we got a win down in Ockram. And that, again, just snowballed things into the New York trip and the Roscommon. And we could just feel it. We could kind of sense it in the training as the year was going on. As I said, the panel was superb, really. Looking back on the players that were on the bench and that kind of final day, I think it gave us huge belief as well that we were going to do something that year. And, you know, we felt Galway they had a lot of All-Ireland winners, but they might have been coming to their end of their cycle in some ways, and we just needed to capitalise on that and just take them and go for it. I think we all felt that we had, we'd lost a lot of finals. What was another final if this goes wrong? So we kind of just took the shackles off and went for it. And probably on the day we were by far the better team. Really, we missed a lot of chances in the second half, but again, those mental scars were probably kicking in a little bit near the end of the game, where we missed a few frees, we missed a few chances, and we nearly let them back into it. But thankfully, we got over the line. We got a late score, and so the rest is history. And it was a fantastic moment, really, for Sligo GAA history at the time.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, even for myself, looking back on that, that's kind of, it's definitely a rarity. You don't really see those things, sadly, anymore, which is a shame in the GAA.
Yeah.
And I suppose, obviously, you kind of touched on 2002 there as well. Like, do you think that was kind of the difference then for yourselves as well? Was obviously the confidence it gave you, kind of getting that win over Tyrone, and obviously Armagh, like, you know, they went on to win the All-Ireland, and that was a draw in the first game. So there certainly wasn't there wasn't much between you in that either.
Yeah, I think it did. I think, again, the exposure from the qualifiers. Without the qualifiers, I mean, Sligo were still going to be, you know, possibly the also rans of Connacht football, that you'd be getting close. You might get to a Connacht final. But just that exposure, I think, certainly just gave a huge belief within the county. I know myself, growing up and you know, passionate Sligo fan because my brother was involved, but you couldn't even buy a jersey in town at the time. Like in the mid to late 90s, there was no jerseys around the place. But as soon as the qualifiers kicked off, kind of we had to change our jersey. We were a white jersey traditionally, and we had to change the jersey at the time to a black one against Kildare. And all of a sudden, then sports shops were getting them in, and there was a great buzz around this new jersey, and it looked really well at the time. And so just you could just sense something was happening, was beginning to happen in Sligo football. And when you saw even kids going around the streets with jerseys, and you know, that was just, you know, that just lifted players as well. So Yeah, no doubt about it. That run against to beat Tyrone and Croke Park, I think they were the league champions at the time, was huge. And then moving that on then to being very narrowly defeated then by Armagh, the replay. And we'd have a goal chance at the very end of the first game. Darren McGarty, everyone is still in mixed minds in Sligo whether he should have went for that goal, or was it a safer option to punch the ball over the bar if it got blocked from a narrow angle coming in. People were saying to fist that ball over the bar. He could have went for the goal. He probably wasn't a goal getter as such. He got some fantastic points against Tyrone and Armagh himself, but Darragh would probably feel himself that he was more of a point getter than a goal getter. He wouldn't have been an inside man, more of a half forward. But in saying that, there was a slight chance there he could have went for the goal, and we would have been in All-Ireland semi-final against Dublin. But it didn't happen. And but there was so many things in that match that could have went our way or could have went Armagh's way. So bounce for a ball. I think. The replay in Navan, then again, it was over and back between us. There was a late penalty decision that could have went our way with Sean Davey into the box, and if we got that chance, that would have put us again into the semi-finals. So, but no, that brought us huge confidence as well. Lots of players. You could always draw on that confidence then, and those big day experiences when you were coming into a Connacht final in the likes of 2007. So, it was fantastic, and I think probably looking from the GAA history, I'm not sure as many teams won a senior title without having any member of the panel with a provincial underage medal or a previous senior medal. I'm thinking back, maybe Clare back in 92 or 94, 92, I think, against Kerry.
Yeah.
That might be the only one I'm thinking. Leitrim, I know they won in 94, but I think they won under 21 championship prior to that, a couple of years before that. So that was the huge achievement that happened to us that time, that we had actually, as I said, a lot of mental scars going into that game, and without having any provincial medals before that. So that was again a huge bonus, I suppose, kind of for us when you look back and say, wow, that was great to get over the line.
Yeah, and would it be fair to say then that was probably the crowning moment of your time playing with the Sligo footballers? Obviously, it being just the third time that Sligo had won the Connacht Championship.
Yeah, I think the celebrations kind of would testify to that it really awakened again the Sligo people, and people say it's a Sligo town for soccer, but I think the whole county got on board. And my memory after the game was coming through Breheny, first of all, which is on the border of Kerry and Mayo, and we kind of walked off the bus and brought the cup across the border there. But my abiding memory would be coming into Sligo town. I suppose GAA fans wouldn't have really associated, wouldn't have never thought coming into town, and so many people from town and maybe just out on the kind of suburban part of Sligo coming in and celebrating us getting off the bus with the cup, and the street was thronged with people at the time. So for us, it was amazing, especially growing up in the town myself. I'm from the town club St. Mary's, and that was a huge I thought moment, in my own lifetime, to think, that the fans that were here on that particular night, and it was amazing. The celebrations kind of went on for a couple of days, and we had to try to get our heads down, at it again against Cork then I think it was 3 weeks after that. And unfortunately that didn't go to plan. On the day itself, I remember the game was delayed, first of all, due to a game. There was a draw in the first game, and I went to and it went to extra time, and probably both teams come out flat then on that particular day. Cork got a goal in that first half, but it was a flat first half. We got back into it then maybe 15 minutes ago. We were only 3-4 down, and just couldn't reel them back in, and it was 11-8 on that particular day. Cork lost to Kerry in the final. Kerry we always felt Kerry the only team really to beat Cork back around those days. In fairness, Cork were very strong around midfield, and we just couldn't cope with them on the day. In fairness, they were very good in breaks, and they obviously went on and won it then in 2010. So we came close, but looking back, that was probably a disappointment of that year. And sometimes it probably put a little bit of a dampener on the year after doing so well in the Connacht title, that we didn't probably perform to our levels that we should have in Croke Park on that particular day. But when that all kind of died down, you reflected then at the end of the year on what was a massive year for us.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely, yeah. And I suppose I can imagine, obviously, it was probably just a massive high as well. That was probably, very hard to top that, I suppose, when it is only the third time that the Sligo have won the Connacht Championship. But I suppose, was that kind of the main
disappointment maybe that you didn't quite build on that in maybe 2008 or 2009? I know obviously you came close again in 2010, but was that the kind of only disappointment then, that you didn't quite get over the line again, maybe kind of, the next couple of years while it was that momentum?
Yeah, no question about that. Again, we played the following year. Tommy Jordan came in as manager then. Tommy did decide to walk away at that stage, and he was quite busy with his own work. He was an auctioneer in town, and he just felt as though the recession was kind of beginning to start around that period, 2008, and he felt he had to just concentrate on his own business. So Tommy Jordan came in then, that had looked after Crossmolina, they won the senior club title, All-Ireland title with Crossmolina. So, he was an experienced manager at club level coming in, and it probably just took him, a few months to even get a handle on things regarding ourselves, because I think we just got carried away maybe from the previous year, and we didn't get back training properly prior to that Christmas, and the league didn't go so well. So it was tough for Tommy Jordan really to come in and kind of take us down a pick or two maybe as well. Players had gone, so we got a little bit confident then from the Connacht title win, and weren't working hard enough and weren't training hard enough. So I think we have to take a lot of responsibility for our performance in it. Went out very flat against Mayo then in the Connacht Championship, and I think so that was just a real kind of disappointing year, and we didn't want to build. But Kevin Walsh then came in at the end of 8 and kind of took over then for the 2009 series that year. And Kevin, I suppose as players, some of us would have played against him, and what he achieved himself as a player, you were kind of looking forward to working with him as a manager. He hadn't huge experiences as a manager coming in, but his pedigree as a player, was huge. And we were looking forward to playing under his stewardship that time. But he, just gave us a real lift and got a good backroom team, some fantastic Sligo players, Paul Durkin, Desiree Snoin, Paul Taylor involved with him, and a very good strength and conditioning coach, and Mick Tolan was his name, coming in, and just huge professionalism back into our squad again. And we were, very close that year. We played Tipperary in a qualifier and bet them in Semple Stadium and lost to Kerry by a point in 9. And we felt that was a day we should have won it. David Kelly missed a penalty near the end with 5 minutes to go. If that went in, we would have bet Kerry. I feel the momentum was all with us. And that was in Tralee, that game. So that was very, very narrow. But that brought us, again, gave us confidence to move on in 10. And for the first time, I think we bet Mayo and Galway in Sligo's history. Bet Mayo and Galway to get in, to set us up for a Scommon game that we narrowly lost out on. But the Mayo game was a huge victory, really, in Markovich. That was the one that, I hadn't beaten Mayo in Championship at that stage of my career. And the Galway then was a massive tussle. We played them in Salt Hill first, beating them well, and they came back well in that game. And that brought it to Markovich Park. And I don't think I ever had as big a cheer when we kind of got the winning point that day. It was a wet evening in Markovich, but it was over and back. Scores were over and back, and fantastic just to win that game. In fairness, to get over the line against Galway, there was many times where Galway just would have pipped us by the point. But again, we were at home, and I think the crowd just roared us on that day now. So that was fantastic. But the Roscommon defeat was very, very hard to take. I don't think I'm still over it, to be honest. But yeah, that was just a real damper on what was, again, a fantastic year. We felt, after winning 2 big games in Connacht, and just unfortunately the final didn't go our way. That led on to 11, a bit of a down year. Then again, we lost to Leitrim, so there can be highs and lows with Sligo football. Lost to Leitrim that year, probably the better team on the day, in fairness. Again, we were just a little bit flat. And then 12, we got back to New York then in 2012. And that was, again, there was a bit of a trend there. So 2, 7 and 12, we went to New York and ended up in Connacht Finals in all those 3 years. So it probably, again, galvanised the lads when you go away for a trip again. It really got us bonded again, and new faces were coming into the squads. Just got the older guys kind of mingling with the younger guys too on that particular trip. So that led us then to bet Galway by I think it was 5 points in Salt Hill. It was the first time we bet Galway in Salt Hill. So momentum was going well again that year, and lost narrowly to Mayo. I think just maybe 2 points in the end. So that was kind of 12 earned at that stage. So yeah, so listen, over the years you look back and you say, geez, there's so many highs and lows. and it's just a shame we didn't get that second or third Connacht medal. We'd probably compare ourselves with the likes of Monaghan, that they got their spell there. I think they certainly won two kind of provincial titles there, or maybe three over a span of whatever 10 years. And I just felt, as a county ourselves, we were very close to doing that, and it's a shame we didn't win that second one at least, you know.
And I suppose maybe when you look back at Sligo in the past, you know, since 2015, in the past 4 or 5 years or so, like, what do you think is like gone wrong a little bit there? Like, obviously you had a lot of players who kind of like have retired and whatnot, but what do you think has been the difference for Sligo maybe not being as competitive nowadays, whereas, you know, back then they were obviously competing for Connacht titles?
Yeah, I think throughout the majority of my career, there was huge belief in a lot of the players, and a lot of the players had good pedigree. They're playing a lot of lads had played Sigerson football. A lot of players had played in big games and won big games. And you know, the league we were playing, a lot of lads had started off, and when I started off, had played in Division 1 football as well. So it's kind of restructuring of the leagues back in the late 90s, and that gave us exposure to Division 1 as well, and that certainly helped us back in those early years. Niall Carew came in kind of 15, and he came in at a time when it was a transitionary period within Sligo. I think Pat Flanagan was there in 14, and Kevin had left in 13. So I could see it myself as a teacher. I could see a trend happening where we'd some very good young players coming in, but it was going to take a little bit of time for them to be bedded in. In 15, you know, it was probably a bonus year in a lot of ways, where I was asked to kind of captain a team by Niall. In 15, I'd worked with Niall Carew in Maynooth in the Sigerson campaign in 2003, 2004, and he, I suppose he approached me, and I was kind of humming and hawing would I stay another year, and I kind of said I enjoyed my time with him in Maynooth, and he kind of sold it to me that some, you know, he knew some of the young players coming in, he wanted to bed them in, but he needed me and a few other elder statesmen to stay on and just guide them along, and would I stay for a year or two. And he said, would I like to be captain? And I took that opportunity. I said I would. So after a little bit of thinking about it, and we had a good year in 15. We were the top scorers in Division 3, as in scores 4. So we outscored any other team in all 4 divisions that year, and not on a score difference, but on actually scoring points and goals. But so our attack and play was very, very fluent, and we came across Den Roscommon, and we ambushed him this year, or that particular year, thankfully, because that's what they caught us in 10, and we you know, they were Division 2 champions with John Evans, manager at the time, in 15, and they were coming kind of hot favourites from Arkridge Park that day, and our intensity was very, very high that day, and we probably bet them by a couple of points in the end, and a surprise really, because again we had a mixture of young guys and senior guys just kind of playing for the first time together in that particular year. But we did really well that year. Unfortunately, the final end didn't go well that year against Mayo. You know, fairly hammered. In fairness, they just blew us out of the water in the first 20 minutes, and we just couldn't get back at them. Played Tyrone then in Croke Park, and with only 15 minutes to go, you're probably only 4 points down or 5 points down, and couple of missed chances, and they drove it on and bet us by, I think, 5 in the end, or 6. But that was a huge experience. I played with my nephew Cian then that year, and that was a fantastic kind of period for me as well. So to have hung on to play for those years, to play with Cian as well, was special, in fairness, on my own career, and I think he was delighted to get an opportunity to play with me after watching me play over the years. But yeah, Aaron, just to go back to your original question, from there, whatever it is, certain players haven't maybe committed at times. Probably some people in Sligo think there's still a transitionary period, kind of from 18 really. We had a decent year in 17. We again went to New York and ran Mayo close in the Connacht Championship. But yeah, 18, 19, 20, we just seem to have gone back a little bit. We've gone to Division 4 now. You know, to put my finger on it, I think we've 2 league games left. If we can get back into Division 3 and get competitive, there's a lot of young good talent there between St. Attractus and Summerhill, and even West Sligo, you know, and Enniscrone are improving their schools football. So there's lots of talent. I know there's lots of talent in the county. It's just about getting momentum going again. It's taken longer than I thought it would. 18 just wasn't a good year. 19, 20, we struggled in the league, struggled to win matches. Is the quality there? I think it is. Maybe it's not as good in yet as what I would have walked into in the early noughties, or certainly the 2007 squad. We wouldn't be probably near those standards yet. But I think the current early 20-year-olds, if they can keep going, don't walk away for a year. If they can get a 4 or 5 year period going, and bring the other young, very good talent coming through, I think Sligo can be up mixing with Galway, Mayo, or Scommon again in the near future, and maybe on the next 2-3 years, hopefully. That'll be the plan.
And would you say then that the league is probably the priority for Sligo if the championship does resume? Because obviously they've 2 league games there against Carlow and Limerick, and obviously if they won them, they would get promoted to Division 3. You'd have to feel. I mean, it's pretty close there. But would you say that probably is the priority? Because obviously a match against Galway in the Connacht Championship, like it's, like they might cause Galway a couple of problems, but I think that's always going to be very difficult to get over the line there.
Yeah, I think so, Aaron. I think like Galway seemed to have, prior to this, they were flying in Division 1 before the lockdown happened. And I think that would have to be the case, that Sligo, if we can get out of Division 4 again, get back into 3, and sometimes a team from 4, and I've seen it myself. We did it ourselves in 2010. We bounced from 4 with Kevin Walsh, from 4 to 2. So within 2 years, you were kind of 1 Division 4, we won Division 3. We bet Antrim and Croke Park again. That was great exposure for lads to get a chance to play in Croke Park in a National League final. So I think if we get out of 3 again, straight, or get out of 4 and get into 3 straight away, and then you could give 3 a real rattle and get back into even Division 2, and then you're mixing with very, very good high standard teams again. But 3 is competitive. 4, it's competitive. The one for the Sligo squad, there's no doubt about that. I think we're better. I think as a county, we want to be moving on, that we want to be getting back into Division 2 at least, and then you're pushing for 1. I've no doubts that there's a lot of lads in that squad, in the Sligo squad, want to be playing back in Division 1, because they would have seen Sligo doing that back in even 15, 17 years ago. So there's young lads there looking on and saying, right, they'd love a crack at that. But Carlow, Limerick won't be easy. It'd be great to win those 2 games, and that'll guarantee, I think, promotion then if we win those 2 games. So Galway will always be difficult. I think the way they're playing at the moment, they just seem to be very, very strong. It's an away game too. I think if Sligo had to be Markwich, it might be a little bit different. But yeah, certainly I would feel players-wise, they'd be looking at getting out of Division 3 and getting a very good performance against Galway. No stage in my own career did we ever feel that we wouldn't beat Galway every game we went into. You want to beat them. I think I bet them on 3 occasions in Championship and FBD games, and you're kind of, you were mixing right with them. When you lost to them in the Championship game, it was only maybe narrowly enough. So, I think we just need that mentality back in Sligo again, where we're, strong belief that we can take on anyone and beat them on a particular day. So I hope that will creep into the squad over the next couple of years.
And would there be any players on the Sligo team, maybe coming through, or even that have shined in the club championship, that you think could even cause Galway some problems in that game?
Yeah, well, I think my own nephew Keane did very well for our own club this year. He came back. He was away in Vancouver for a year, and he's come back and he's looking really strong. He looks hungry for it again. There's Liam Gahan, a lad I'm very impressed with, and plays for Tordestrand. Tordestrand are after winning 5 county titles in a row, and he's a prominent player for them the last 5 years. So he's still only very young. He's still only 22, maybe 23 this year. There's a Red Oak Murphy, came back from Australia, and he was a super minor back a couple of years ago. He scored 11 points against Derry in a minor championship quarter-final. So he was hotly regarded as one of the top minors in the country at that particular year. So he's come back, had a great year with Kerry, his club, Sound Sligo club, scored man of the match in the intermediate final at the weekend. So he's one to watch out for, no doubt about it. He's done well in the league so far. He looks very, very impressive. So those kind of guys are there, and you still have a few of the stalwarts there. I would call them stalwarts, but they're still only early 30s. The Keelan Cawleys and Neil Ewings and guys like that. There's an Owen McHugh, and so I feel we're not that far away. Paul Coyne, another good lad for my own club, St Mary's, is just grown into the role of a midfielder there and had a good championship with us as well. So there's lots of talent. It's just getting it all together now, I think, over the next couple of years. And yeah, so they're certainly ones to watch out for, the lads that I mentioned so far.
And then I suppose obviously kind of taking things back a bit to when you were touching on St. Mary's there. So would winning the 2015 Sligo Senior Football Championship be a big moment for yourself as well? I mean, I know obviously you were involved back in 2001 as well, but I suppose ending that 14-year wait for a county title, and then of course as well, you know, something good to finish up on, I suppose, in your career. So was that kind of a big moment for yourself as well?
Yeah, it was fantastic, Aaron. Yeah, 2001, I was 20 years old, and you were just kind of, we were after winning another 21 championship the year before, but we probably 10 or 11 under 21 lads had just progressed onto the senior team. And again, my brother Tommy that looked after us with 2007 Connacht winning side was the manager back then. In 2001, he was still only in his early 30s looking back, funny enough, but the chairman at the time asked him would he take over, and he said he would. And so that sacrificed him probably playing an extra year or two. So took over the management. We won it. This was for him, manager, me playing, and a lot of fellas that I would have grown up playing underage since under nines were on that squad, and that was a special. That was one of the highlights certainly of my career so far. And then a huge gap then for 14 years. We narrowly. I played in 6 county finals, senior level, and they're the 2 wins. So I'd lost 4 in between. Sorry, I'd lost. I think it was maybe 3 up to that point, and then in 15, Tommy came back on board again. He'd looked after a lot of underage teams, kind of between probably 2008, 2009, even up until 15. So he jumped back in at the senior level again, and we won that year. So that was great. We got a nice couple of players kind of that had moved into the area. Fintan Ruddy was a former Mayo goalkeeper, came in as an excellent goalkeeper for us, and a great forward. And Rory Guinan came in used to play for Offaly a little bit kind of in his early career for might have played a couple of league games, but a fantastic player, Rory, for us in that particular year. And he was hugely instrumental with a lot of other good young players coming through from the underage system as well. So fantastic year. Keane then again, my nephew kind of a little bit of he was injured a little bit that campaign, but he came on in the final that year, and so we played together in a Connacht final or a county final win. So that again was a special from a family point of view. But so we haven't Tour de Strand since then has won 5 titles in a row. We've only got to the final in 16 after that, and so it's trying to build and try to can we top a Tour de Strand maybe next year again and see how that goes. But I suppose it's a long year ahead to next September again.
Yeah, and I suppose would you ever have any interest in management or even getting back involved in the game, like after you were to retire from your club football?
Yeah, I've huge interest in coaching, I must say. I looked after kind of teams in Summerhill since I went in since 2007. I've looked after some club teams with St. Mary's. I helped out coach. I was part of a coaching team. We won the Connacht GAA colleges final in 2016 with Summerhill. It was an all Sligo GAA final that had never happened before, and so I really enjoyed that campaign. I suppose you try to bring a little bit of professionalism that you might have seen yourself over the years with Sligo and my club, and you bring that into a school level. So I think there was nearly 5 of us involved between teachers and coaches that particular year. So we threw everything at that year, and thankfully we got over the line. Lost to St. Pat's Mahara in the semi-final by a point, and last second penalty by St. Pat's Mahara. And if we'd won that, we were in Croke Park against St. Brendan's of Killarney, which was David Clifford's school there at the time, and lads would have loved that. There's a crack at playing that school in Killarney, but it wasn't to be. But I enjoy coaching. Management side of things it's hard to know. Do I prefer coaching or would I like to get involved maybe as a manager as such? At the moment, it's probably more of a coaching role I'd like to go down, but I'd never rule out managing as well. Can you do the two? At the moment, it's hard to know. I think sometimes if you're a manager, you nearly have to stay to one side and be that manager and get good coaches in with you. So probably in the near future, I'd like to start off, if I was going to get into it, have some form of, if I was going to be a manager, I'd still like to coach, put it that way. But certainly start off coaching at a certain level in the near future. Yeah, maybe a senior level if I can in the near future. So I'll just have to see about my own football career, whether I'll play on another year or two or just take a break, obviously, or leave that altogether and play some maybe junior level, and then you could still coach as well, I suppose. But future, I'm still not fully sure yet what I'll do yet, Aaron.
Yeah. And I suppose lastly then, just to kind of finish up, obviously there's no guarantee the championship is even going to go ahead this year, but I suppose if you were to make a pick now for who you think would win the All-Ireland, I mean, who would you go for?
Yeah, obviously you can't rule out Dublin again. They're a superb outfit. They've just, to keep going year in, year out, the momentum that they've had. You know, you need a bounce of luck, but they seem to have got that as well over the years. But just their whole application of how their physique and their athleticism up and down the field has been just so impressive.
Okay, so that's the end of the podcast. Unfortunately, we had some connection issues there towards the end, so we didn't quite get the end of Mark's prediction ahead of the All-Ireland. He basically just went on to say that it's going to be very hard to stop Dublin. You know, Kerry, Galway, and Donegal are obviously, you know, going to be the closest challengers for 2020. And yeah, look, listen, best of luck to Mark if he does decide to go into coaching. And, you know, he's had a fabulous career with his club St. Mary's and of course with Sligo, and it was great to, you know, go in depth with Mark on the podcast today, going you know, into all things Sligo, of course, ahead of the intercounty season. Do leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. My name is Aaron, and I'll see you in the next video.